Thanks for joining us today. I'm meteorologist Taylor Cox, and we are tracking storms across Michigan, across the Great Plains, and across Colorado. So it's kind of a rinse and repeat from what we had yesterday for Denver. However, other places across the U.S. are getting extreme heat, flooding potential, also that strong wind and large hail. So we'll talk about all of those hazards for you here in just a few minutes. Let's get to your headlines first. The heat rages on. Yes, it is like that hazard that just won't stop. And we will continue to see warm temperatures as we head throughout the rest of this week and most likely next week as well. I don't think that those temperatures are cooling down for July. It'll be August before we get cooler temperatures. Denver hail? Question mark? Well, we're going to try again today. We will see if we can get that hail out in Denver today. I think that we missed it yesterday, and a lot of people are saying because of the smoke in the area, and a lot of people are having questions about what the wildfire smoke will do to your storms, and I think that's a very interesting conversation. But we missed out on that hail yesterday. Let's see if we can get it again today. It's a very similar setup, and we'll talk about that here in just a few minutes. Also, we'll go down to Texas and Louisiana, where we do have a tropics update for you. Do we have a next tropical system on the horizon, or are we just talking rain? Well, let's get to what we saw yesterday, then we'll get to your forecast for today. It's really a wind event for the most part. That hail is few and far between. We mapped a little bit of hail yesterday. I think one of the most interesting things that happened just outside of the risk, and this is why we say don't trust that marginal risk. Don't underestimate a marginal risk, because this was either marginal or not in a risk at all. And we did see some pretty decent large hail in the southern side of Nebraska and northern Kansas yesterday. Now, I just missed out a little bit because we did have that large hail pinpointed for Colorado. Then as we went through the rest of the evening hours, it was mainly a tornado and a wind threat. We did have several tornado warnings, but most of those were weakening. Most of those storms weakened as we head into the evening hours. One thing that I do want to mention, early this morning at about 10, 11 o'clock this morning, we had a very rare tornado warning for Sheboygan, Michigan. There's Sheboygan, there's your tornado warning, and I thought that was very interesting because it's very rare. This area of Michigan gets about 2 tornado warnings a year. So they've gotten 2 this month. We'll see if we can get anything else as we go throughout the rest of the day. We do have a cold front that's initiating all of these storms that stretches all the way to the northern portion of Michigan through the central portion of Kansas, and then a high pressure system that's attempting to set up over the Four Corners. However, it is pretty messy in this area. Now, we're talking about a lot of states today. We're going Colorado, Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri, Illinois, and Michigan. I think I got it, all of them. So put in the comments, where are you guys watching from today? What state should we be talking about today? No rain up to the north and east. Temperatures are heating up there. We've got a few showers farther down into the Gulf. We'll talk about what this means for your tropics forecast in just a few minutes. And then, of course, really where we're focused on today is that severe risk down in the southern plains and then all the way up to the Midwest into places like the Great Lakes. Current temperatures, it's toasty. Even with this cold front coming across the U.S., it's still pretty warm. 76 in Denver, 91 in Oklahoma City, 83 in Kansas City, and 91 in Fort Wayne. It's not just the heat that's getting to us, it's also those storms. We have storms stretching anywhere from Rapid City all the way down to the panhandle of Texas and then back up into the Midwest. 2 different areas for storms tomorrow, one in the northern plains, one out to the east, and another round of storms on Saturday as well. So we stay pretty active despite our high pressure system. The heat dome is probably a term that you've heard many, many times over the last few days. We have heard the word heat dome, ring of fire. What does this mean? It's really just a high pressure system that is locking in place down in the southern portion of the U.S. And what this does is it brings warm temperatures, usually clear and calm conditions to this area. And then just outside of the heat dome is where we see all of those storms that will just kind of ride around that heat dome area. We do have heat advisories, extreme heat warnings in effect right now. That goes all the way through this afternoon, and I think a few of these will even extend into Friday as well. Millions in the path for extreme heat today. Now taking a look at your storm hazards. So we'll talk hail, we'll talk wind, we'll talk tornadoes. Here's a look at your significant hail model. What we're looking for here is we're looking for those yellows and oranges for quarter to maybe ping pong ball size hail. orange to red for those larger hailstones. And what we're really seeing is we don't get into the red category today. We barely get into the orange category today. What we are really expecting, maybe ping pong ball size hail if you're lucky. So that's the largest hail size that I have for today, ping pong ball size hail. Where is that falling? I have that in the central to eastern portion of Wyoming, Colorado, and then western portion of South Dakota. So we can get down into this hail forecast here. I have the risk as very low today. One thing that we like to say in the meteorology community is the trend is your friend. Now, the trend the last few days has not wanted to put hail in these areas. We get those storms, but they really struggle to strengthen, to go severe. So I'm keeping this in the low category today. Models are not looking promising for hail in this area. However, as we talked yesterday, don't underestimate this type of setup. These types of setups will surprise you. So I'm kind of waiting on that day that we say, it's not going to happen. And then sure enough, it does. It's possible, but it's a low chance today. Before we move on, do we have any questions that we need to? John is saying no questions today. Oh, a quiet group today. Alrighty, well, we'll move on. Your wind forecast is a lot more widespread. It's a low chance, mainly on the western side of this forecast. However, you go up to the east, and we do have a pretty decent chance for high winds across Chicago and Detroit. Again, the trend is your friend. We saw those high wind alerts yesterday. We're going to see them again today. But one thing that I really want to mention and highlight for you guys today is that flooding risk. While your hail and your wind and your tornado threats in this area are very low, that flooding risk is a different story. Especially in places from Wichita to Kansas City, up in the northern portion of Missouri and northern portion of Illinois, that is where we're going to see some of the most rainfall today. So I want you to take those flooding threats seriously. You know the drill here, turn around, don't drown. We are going to see round after rain in places like Kansas City. And I do have your Kansas City forecast, so we'll talk about that here in just a few minutes. Tornado forecast today, you know, it's so low, we didn't put it on the board. Is an isolated tornado or two possible today? Yeah, you know, we already saw that up in northern Michigan early this morning where we had a tornado warning. However, it's such a low risk for today, I didn't even make a map. I think it's a very, very low risk. Nation view for your radar here. This is what we're talking about for timeline today. Don't worry, we'll go down into each specific region. Let's start with the west first. So we're going up to the Rocky Mountains, Wyoming, and Colorado here. Very similar to yesterday, most storms will form just to the west of I-25. Storms are likely to form between about 1 and 2 o'clock this afternoon, then track to the east into the eastern portion of Wyoming and Colorado as we head into the late evening hours, most likely clearing by your evening commute or maybe shortly after. So some of us could have a wet evening commute. However, I think that most of us will be dry by that point. So we'll know if we have a hailstorm, we'll know by about 6 or 7 o'clock tonight. Moving on to your Denver specific forecast here. Very similar to yesterday. You can see those storms forming between about 1 and 2 o'clock this afternoon. So again, this is Central Time. Unfortunately, I can't get our models to switch over to Mountain Time unless I switch the entire system over. So we're sticking with Central Time. 1 to 2 o'clock Central Time. This should be updated, Thursday. Very similar though, your storm timeline, Thursday, 2 to 7 o'clock. Max forecasted hail size, ping pong ball size hail. Your chance for that, it's low. You're gonna have some isolated storms in this area. These are gonna continue as we head into the evening hours. But by the time you're ready to lay your head down tonight, all of these storms will be out of your area. Now moving down into Texas and Kansas, that's where we have the flood risk today, and every now and then we could see some isolated strong winds. Wind speeds this afternoon will range between about 60 to maybe 70 miles an hour. We're talking about that marginal risk for storms here, 65 mile per hour wind speeds, maybe up to 70. Now before we go up into places like Chicago, I want you to notice how widespread these showers and storms are and how long they last in this area. From Kansas City all the way down to the panhandle of Texas, it's just round after round of storms that are sitting right on that cold front. They don't move a ton today. So watch Kansas City as we get round after round of storms bringing rain, not only starting at lunchtime but continuing through dinner time tonight. and you're headed to bed, yeah, you may still have lightning and thunder outside of your window. It is still raining out there. Your severe risks here are very low. We've got a low hail risk for Kansas City, but it's going to be that flooding risk that you really need to be concerned about. Alrighty, I see a question on here. Hail in Michigan. Perfect timing because we are going up to Michigan next. I put it as a low chance for today. If you do get hail in Michigan, it's going to be that northern side of Michigan in the top northern corner here. Flooding will probably be your main risk today, but I cannot rule out an isolated tornado or an isolated hailstorm. Again, we're close to the low pressure system up here, so this is where your strongest storms are going to be today, anywhere from the northern portion all the way down into places like Chicago. This southeastern side, I know we get a lot of questions about it. You probably will be severe clear for today. And Chicago forecast right here, your timeline this evening, 5 to 11 o'clock this evening. Storms are likely to start after you get home from your evening commute, but continue through the late night hours tonight. Again, one of your biggest risks is going to be that flooding risk. The hail risk is very low in this area. Tornado and wind is possible. If I had to choose between the two, probably strong wind speeds. Strong wind speeds are going to be possible in this area. Anytime you get strong storms, strong wind speeds are possible. However, that tornado risk is very, very low today. Alrighty, and great questions. I see a few questions on here. So we appreciate you guys hopping in and asking those questions about the forecast today. We're going to move on from hail and wind down to the tropics and talk about that next tropical disturbance. The National Hurricane Center has a 10% chance for a tropical disturbance out in the Gulf over the next 5 to 6 days. Now, I think it's a very, very low chance for anything to organize here. Most likely what we're going to see in this area is heavy rain just along the coastline here. So we're talking about heavy rain from Louisiana all the way down into places like Galveston and Houston, Texas, not only today, but most likely increasing that rain chance through Friday and Saturday. So watch for a rainy weekend out in places like Galveston, New Orleans, and Texas. Nothing to cancel your plans over, but enough rain to have an inside backup plan. And there's your forecast today. There's your risk for storms across the Midwest. Again, that hail in Michigan, you see that area that's like highlighted in yellow on the northern half? That's where I would put hail for today. Lower chance the farther south that you go, but it's possible. Flooding and the potential for high winds and maybe an isolated tornado or two closer into northern Indiana and northern Illinois. We've got that wind and flooding risk as we get down into Missouri, Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas, and then that low hail risk from Denver all the way up to Rapid City. Tomorrow we have another round of storms, one in the northern plains, the other out on the east coast. And then by Saturday we return back to the Midwest. Chicago, you're in the path again this weekend as we have another round of storms on Saturday. And I expect another round of storms on Sunday as well. Here's a look at your risk for tomorrow. Temperatures, there's just no relief, is there? There's a little bit of relief in places like Kansas and Nebraska. You're still hot, but you're cooler than you were yesterday, so I guess we'll take it. Temperatures are going to stay pretty warm, however, as we head into the weekend. 80s, 90s, all across the board here. Today, 100 degrees in Oklahoma City tomorrow. Yeah, it sounds like we're staying inside tomorrow. 99 in Oklahoma City. One thing that I think is very interesting about this temperature map, or at least the temperatures over the next few days, is the lows, the overnight lows. So as you wake up in the morning, you want some sort of heat relief, right? No. The lows overnight are like in the mid to upper 70s. There's no relief for your AC. Your AC is working overtime. There's no relief for you in the morning. If you want to get outside and do some lawn work, it's still hot, even in the early morning hours, in the late night hours. So it's going to stay hot. That's why we have these heat advisories and these heat warnings in place here. It does look like we have a little bit of relief as we head into the early portion of August. So finally, by the end of this month and early next month, we start to see some cooler temperatures work their way into the U.S. Finally, right? And into early August, we do see some rain return into this area. So I am expecting more active severe weather as we return to August. All right, thanks for joining us today. I'm meteorologist Taylor Cox. We appreciate you hopping on to the forecast this afternoon. We have a forecast every day right around lunchtime, noon, 12:05, 12:10. Follow us on all of our social medias for more weather updates. We did a fun update yesterday with the largest hailstone ever recorded in the US. Let me show you this hailstone. We talked about on our YouTube page yesterday, and I think I posted it early this morning. This is a 3D printout of the largest hailstone in the US. It fell in Vivian, South Dakota, weighs about 2 pounds, like the actual hailstone weighs about 2 pounds, and it's about 8 inches long, or 8 inches in diameter. It's absolutely massive. We said that this will not dent your roof. This will go right through your roof and dent your coffee table. So we do fun things on our social media. Follow us over there on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok, and give us a call if you're interested in a hail, wind, or tornado report. We make maps of tornadoes, hail, wind, as it's happening. So give us a call if you would like a map at 855-334-4245, or email us at info@hailtrace.com. Head over to our website for more information. All right, thanks for joining us today. I'm meteorologist Taylor Cox, and we'll see you back here same time, same place for your forecast tomorrow.